Welcome, Hudson Valley. This is Conor Walsh, host of In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. This week on In Touch, we have Kathy McCarthy, Senior Marketing Communications Director of the American Heart Association of New York. We discuss the upcoming Hudson Valley Heart Walk on April 27th, happening on the Walkway Over the Hudson. We also talk about the signs and symptoms of heart disease and what you can do if you witness someone in cardiac distress. We invite you to join us and listen to a previously recorded conversation between Kathy and myself here on In Touch. Hello, Hudson Valley. You're listening to another episode of In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. It's Conor Walsh, your host as always, and we got a great episode for you guys today. With us, we have Kathy McCarthy, Senior Marketing Communications Director with the American Heart Association of New York. Now, this branch of the American Heart Association specifically watches over the Hudson Valley, Mohawk Valley, Capital Region, and does so many great things when it comes to heart-related research and awareness. Not just that, they're celebrating their 100th anniversary, which we'll get into a lot more later in the episode, but there's a couple of really great events that we want to get into, especially one that's going to be coming up sooner rather than later. It's going to be amazing how quickly it'll be upon us, and can't wait to get into all of this. It's going to be a jam-packed episode, so thank you for being with us today. I introduce to you Kathy McCarthy. Kathy, how are you?
I'm great, Conor. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
This has been a long time coming. We've been in discussion about this for a while, and I'm so glad that we were finally able to get this episode going, especially considering all the things that you guys got coming up, not just up in the next couple months, but for the whole year, and just how incredible that this is. Heart Association celebrating its centennial, which is amazing. Congratulations to all of you guys involved with that. That's fantastic. For those who are unaware of the American Heart Association or have heard the name but don't feel like they're comfortable explaining too much about it, could you give us an overview about the American Heart Association and what you guys do?
I sure would. So our mission is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. And we do this through a lens of cardiovascular disease. So we are out there working to improve heart and brain health throughout the nation, Conor. And we do that through an awful lot of fundraising, events where we can spread awareness, programs in things like schools, and then we fund a ton of scientific research. That's the nickel tour.
And that's fantastic. And it's great stuff that you are doing, and talking about some of those events where you get people in the community, where you get some of those donations, where you raise money and try to help out all these various programs. There's really two that I want to focus on right now, but let's start off with the Hudson Valley Heart Walk. It's going to be happening on the Walkway Over the Hudson on April 27th. It's going to be here in no time. It feels like a while away at the moment, but it's really only a few weeks away. So,
doesn't it? And February was American Heart Month. So
yes.
For us, there's lots and lots of work. So you probably saw a lot of people wearing red, and
yes.
buildings and bridges glowed red. That's kind of our Super Bowl month. And I get caught up in it. And then March 1st comes and I'm like, wait, now we have a walk in the Hudson Valley. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's great that it's one after the other, and that's phenomenal. And the Walkway Over the Hudson, such a great place to have something like this.
Oh my God, iconic, right? As soon as that walkway opened, it just became this important part of the community. And we were really excited to be able to take the walk there because we're literally bridging two counties. This walk used to be called the Duchess Ulster Heart Walk, and now it really is the Hudson Valley Heart Walk. People can come from all over the Hudson Valley, park on either side of the bridge, and we'll have activities and information and a sense of ceremony before people take their walk.
That's amazing. So what can people expect when they are there that day when it comes to speakers, events, booths, things for the whole family? What can be expected there?
So people can expect a combination of information and activities. We are being led this year by Stephen Kelly, the president and CEO from Ellenville Regional Hospital. He will chair the event. So he will lead a group of corporate sponsors who will come, and they'll provide things like health screenings and health information. And then we'll have some activities, come do some social media posts, We'll have some fun things for the kids to do. Last year we had a bubble wrap stomp, which
I heard about that.
So much fun.
Yes.
You probably heard it from the station because all those kids got going on that bubble wrap, and it was like a pop, 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 pop. But, just things like that people can do to kind of get warmed up. We'll have music. I think that you guys will help provide music for us. And then we will have some very moving speeches. We do this so that people can have some time to take a healthy walk and get some information. But we also do this to raise money so we can fight heart disease and stroke. So we will have 2 survivors who will share their stories, one on either side of the bridge. And that just kind of reminds us all of why we're walking. They have a message of inspiration and of hope. So they'll share their stories. The chair will talk a little bit. We'll thank our sponsors. We also have a very moving moment. A lot of people come to our Heart Walk because they've lost someone. And, sometimes what people say is that the Heart Association gave them something to do when they didn't know what to do. So people will gather friends and family in honor of a lost loved one and invest in us to prevent that further loss. So we like to be sure and take a moment to honor them.
Absolutely. It's really about the people at the end of the day, and the fact that you guys can rally around that is fantastic. And hearing the stories of survivors and family members, it's always so touching to experience that, and I'm glad that's something that you're able to highlight. So usually, how many people would you say that you guys anticipate getting, and is there a certain benchmark goal that you want to reach when it comes to the fundraising for the event?
Yeah, so we've had the past few years, we've had about 1,000 people come.
Wow.
We could have a lot more. And, I'll be honest, Conor, things kind of took a step back during the pandemic. For a couple of years, we couldn't gather in person. So we encouraged people to walk where they were, but that's been another really great thing, bringing people back. I always say this will be our 3rd year back in person. And every year, I stand there and I watch the people who are walking and I see the stories, and people wear T-shirts and sweatshirts with photos of the person that they're walking for. We have tribute stickers that they wear. You'll see children born with heart defects, and it just gives me all the feels. It's really amazing. So I hope that every year we keep on growing. So come on out. And we have set a financial goal of $350,000.
Impressive.
And I know we'll meet that. The Hudson Valley is just so generous and so kind, and we'll get there. It's good. And then we'll do very good work with that money, is my promise to everybody listening.
That's fantastic, and I'm really excited about all that. And that's going to be happening April 27th again. That's going to be happening at the Walkway Over the Hudson. You can enjoy that either from the Poughkeepsie side or the Highland side, whatever side you want to park on. And, of course, you can walk on both sides. You can experience all the events and activities that are happening throughout that, and I'm really excited about it. It's a great event. The other event that I want to talk about, even though it's not going to be happening until November, I really want to touch on this one because it also links to something that's happening right now. March is Women's History Month, and of course that's something that we're celebrating here at Townsquare and really all across the nation. And one thing that you guys are going to be doing in November is Go Red for Women celebration, because I'm reading here, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in women. I had no idea about that. Could you tell us about this event and what that means?
Sure. People continue to be surprised by that heart disease is the #1 killer of women. And we are really committed to raising that awareness, because knowledge is power. If you know what you're facing, then you can start to take steps to face it. And that's how our Go Red for Women movement got started. It's 20 years old this year. We're having a big year.
Wow, a lot of big celebrations.
Of the Heart Association. Yeah, exactly. And 20 years of Go Red. But, medical professionals were noticing that a lot of women were dying of heart disease. So that's what we do. We like to bring people together and figure out solutions, So we started this Go Red for Women movement to bring women together, empower them, educate them, and then let them spread it in the community. And we started to have Go Red for Women luncheons or celebrations or evening events so that we could have places where women and men, the men who love them, can come together and support this cause, learn more, and then invest in it. So, in the past 20 years, we've invested in scientific research about women. We have instituted to get young women more interested in science. And, we need to keep on studying this. So a lot of those research projects about women. So in the Hudson Valley in November, we will have a Go Red for Women celebration, and Susan Browning from Nuvance Health will lead that event. And that is a really terrific event. We ask that everybody wears red. And, when I first joined the Heart Association, I thought, that sounds a little hokey, everybody like in red. I cannot even begin to tell you how powerful it is.
I'm sure.
It's really amazing, like everybody in red. And also it's amazing how many shades of red there are, almost like how many different kinds of hearts there are.
Wow.
But it's very powerful. People come together. We provide time for networking. We usually have a silent auction so that people can bid on some items and have a little fun with that. And then we have a program that is educational and inspirational. We will have usually a keynote speaker who can provide some facts and information for people to take away with them. And then, like we do at so many things, we'll put a face on heart disease, and a woman will share her story of survival. And, the thing that comes out a lot with a lot of the women who talk, well, first of all, they look just like the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
They're working moms, they're young women, they have families, they're on a heavy-duty career path. It's really interesting, and then one day they just didn't feel right. And they either got it checked or they didn't, and they had a crisis, and they're here. So we all tend to see ourselves in that survivor. And I think that's how we learn best, right?
Yeah.
If I see someone who's like me, experiencing what I am, it makes me go, whoa, okay, I need to be better about doctor's visits, about what I eat. I gotta get some exercise.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, and that's kind of it. And we give people a chance to make a donation at that event too.
Absolutely. And I think that's great. It's about showing that there's hope and feeling less alone. And I love that comment, what you said about various shades of red, just how they're just every different kind of heart, every different kind of person. And I think that is so meaningful and so impactful. And yes, even though that event is not happening until November, really wanted to talk about it because this is a women-centric event. We are currently in Women's History Month, and I just feel like it's so important to talk about because this is an event you guys have been doing for 20 years now. This is something that is so important to recent history, and we just want to keep promoting it as best as possible. Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. We're speaking with Kathy McCarthy, Senior Marketing Communications Director with the American Heart Association of New York. We've been talking about their upcoming events, from the Hudson Valley Heart Walk to the Go Red for Women celebration. Both incredible events. And Kathy, I got to ask, where can people go online? Do they need to register? Or if there's no registration, where can they donate? How can they keep up with this and stay involved with these events?
Thank you for asking that question. So for the Heart Walk, they can go to DuchessUlsterHeartWalk.org. And the Go Red link is not up yet, but if people go to heart.org, they can keep an eye out for it. And heart.org is also just a terrific place to go if you're just interested in anything about heart disease or stroke, or if you have a question. There's all kinds of information there.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. That sounds fantastic. As we mentioned before, the American Heart Association is celebrating 100 years. Congratulations on that again.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you the incredible work that you guys have been doing and how relentless you are on your journey. Definitely want to get into some of the facts, warning signs, and things related to heart disease and stroke. But I also just want to point out this interesting fact that I just learned. It was the American Heart Association that created CPR. Could you tell about that for us?
So we are so proud of that. In 1961, that was created. And even more importantly, every 5 years, we update the guidelines. So People of a certain age who are listening will remember that you would go for hours to learn CPR, and it was breathing and it was chest compressions, and it took a long time. And that is still necessary, that full CPR, especially if you are a lifeguard or a coach or, in any kind of healthcare public-facing setting. But one thing that regular updating of guidelines showed us was that just doing chest compression was a great way to start CPR, and it took out some of the fear. If someone that you don't know collapses in front of you, you want to help them, but you might not want to put your mouth on theirs. So we know that if you just push hard and fast in the center of the chest, you give that person a chance of survival. And this was really, really driven home last year when Damar Hamlin had a sudden cardiac arrest on the football field. Yes. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about survivors, Conor. Healthy, young, athletic, and boom, just like that, he just collapsed. And because immediate action was taken, he's alive and is sharing his story. And we used that as a clarion call. So we are working now to build a nation of lifesavers. We would like as many people as possible to know hands-only CPR. And I could tell you right now how to do it if you wanted.
I'm CPR certified, and I know how important it is for me. I've been, how long have I been doing the class for? Maybe 10 years? 10?
Oh, great.
Yeah,
great.
I would say for the last 10 years. However, yes, I do want you to talk about how to do CPR, because I'm sure there's many people out there who have not taken that course yet, like myself. So please go into that.
Yep. So if you see someone collapse in front of you, you want to get down on your knees and give them a shake at the shoulders and say, hey, are you okay? And if you don't get a response, you want to indicate, point right at people in the crowd, point to one person and say, you, call 911, point to another and say, you, get an AED. And then you want to put one hand of yours on top of the other. Put your dominant hand on top, and then you want those joined hands in the middle of the person's chest, right between the nipples, and you want to put your weight over it so that you're using your body weight to push hard and fast in the center of the chest. Everybody knows the song, Staying Alive. And do that until help comes or until someone nearby can relieve you. And this is really important because 356,000 people have a sudden cardiac arrest each year, and only 10% survive. And we know if people get CPR, it doubles or triples their chances of survival. So please don't hesitate. Act.
That is so important, and I'm glad that you're able to kind of detail that for all of us. It's interesting. Big movie that's out right now, Madam Web. I know some people may not have enjoyed that film. It's not the greatest superhero film, but the importance of CPR is throughout that film. The lead character is a paramedic, and they have multiple CPR scenes, and it does work. So however you feel about that movie, if you're going to take away anything, take away that CPR is important.
Well, and you could be a superhero, know, and I have to say that is one of the most touching things that I witness sometimes, when someone who was dead is alive and they connect with the person who started CPR. It's an incredible, incredible moment.
I'm sure.
So we can all be, we've said things over the years like you have the power in your hands to be a hero. So please do it.
Absolutely. And I think that's fantastic. So thank you for going into CPR for us. I think that's going to be helpful for a lot of people out there. And as I've mentioned, I've been doing the certification for several years now, but for those who are interested in getting certified so that they feel competent in that situation, how can people get involved with those tests?
If they head to cpr.heart.org, then you should be able to find a class and do it. And also local EMS would also have a listing of ways for you to learn that, because everyone in the community is invested in this skill.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it is something so worthwhile to know. And I encourage anybody out there, if you've been thinking about it, go ahead and do it. It is several hours, but it's worth it. When you think about just the few hours that you're going to be taking, out of one day or whatever, but how good and priceless that information is going to be. So I highly recommend it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I do too. And, you just, sadly, you never ever know, and I hope nobody ever needs to use it. But like any emergency, you'd rather be prepared.
Absolutely.
And be able to help than not.
Absolutely. Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. We've been speaking with Kathy McCarthy, Senior Marketing Communications Director of the American Heart Association of New York. Of course, talking about the Hudson Valley Heart Walk and Go Red for Women. That's happening later in November. The Heart Walk will be April 27th. We've also been talking about the centennial of the American Heart Association, which is so impressive, and talking about some of the amazing things that they have done within that time, especially CPR, so important these days. Now that we're in the last bit of this episode, before we close out, I really want to talk about the signs of heart disease and stroke, because it's something that the concept gets talked about enough, but the signs and symptoms, if you're there in the moment, you may not be sure what's exactly going on. So could you please go into some of the things that we should look out for when we're concerned for a family member?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's the classic kind of Hollywood heart attack where you have that searing pain in your chest or that very heavy feeling. People have compared it to an elephant being on their chest or a hook grabbing them. But certainly if you have any kind of pain in your chest, call 911 right away. And some other symptoms could be pain in your jaw, pain in the left arm. Those can all be signs of a heart attack. And then for women, sometimes the symptoms are a little different. They can have that classic elephant on the chest feeling, but also it could be a little subtler. A lot of women report back pain or shoulder pain or gastrointestinal distress that might go on longer than you would expect. And then a really big one for women is extreme fatigue. And, Conor, talk to any woman and she'll laugh at that and say, I'm tired all the time. But it's different when it's your heart. And then another message we always share for women and men, know your own body. You know what's right for you. You know what's not. You know your level of tiredness. And when it goes beyond it, pay attention to that. And the thing that I would always say is call 911. Don't try to drive yourself to the hospital. Please, it's just not worth it. And, especially during the pandemic, people were really afraid to go to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Or, sometimes people think, oh, it's nothing, it'll pass. I'll get there, it's nothing, and I'll just be a bother. Bother them. You would rather be a little bit embarrassed than be dead, which is harsh sounding, I know, but please get it checked out. So those are some of the symbols of heart attack and what we would encourage you to do. Also, just routinely, I mentioned people we got out of the habit of seeing our doctors, but things are moving back to normal. So it's time to make sure that you're keeping those appointments. Keep a close eye on your blood pressure because you could have high blood pressure and not feel it. And that's one of the biggest risk factors for a heart attack. And same with cholesterol too, and your blood sugar. Just get those checked. And if they're out of whack, then work with your doctor to bring them back where they should be so that you can prevent a heart attack.
Absolutely. And then when it comes to stroke as well, stroke is something that can come on so fast or really attack when you're really not expecting. And what are the things that people should look out for if they realize in themselves or somebody around them?
Yep. So there's a great acronym. We say think fast. F is for your face drooping. A is for arm weakness, S is for slurred speech, and time, call 911, time to call 911. And the thing with a stroke is time is brain, and the more quickly you can get to a hospital and get treated, the less likely you are to have some of the deficits or the disabilities that can result from a stroke. There is a medication that can be given quickly, depending on the kind of stroke you have, but it's not anything to wait around for. And some people say B fast, so B for balance and E for eyes. If your balance is way off, that could be something happening in your brain. And if your vision is blurred or if you're seeing double. And I knew someone who worked in a neurology practice one time, and he said, if you're ever seeing 1.5 of something, get to the ER as quickly as you can. So
Interesting.
things be fast. And, I've heard quite a few stories of people saying exactly that, like someone thinking that they are speaking really clearly to their spouse, and the spouse saying it sounded like a cross between a minion and a Smurf.
Oh, wow.
Be aware of that.
That is concerning.
And just, right? And
Yeah.
imagine that, and just don't hesitate, because the sooner you can get treated, the better you'll be. And there's excellent medical care in the Hudson Valley. So please don't hesitate to go get treated.
Absolutely. And honestly, what you were saying about a lot of the symptoms, I see why it is such a higher killer in women, just based on some of those very subtle symptoms.
Yeah.
Because those symptoms could be misinterpreted as just about anything else.
Yes.
So
yes.
you could
and
go.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why people are like, oh, I'll just wait. Well, I'm tired, I'll get a good night's sleep. So
Yeah.
that's where it is also important to kind of know what your body will do and what it won't. And don't try to not compare yourself to others, because we're all different.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Even kind of what you were saying about the embarrassment thing, even if like you show up and it's not heart related and it's not super serious, but you just feel like something's off, it's much more worth it to be, all right, let me just get this checked rather than wait around, because you don't want to wait around and find out in the worst ways possible. So that's so important.
Exactly. Yep.
Unfortunately, Kathy, we are getting close to the end of this episode, and I love everything that we talked about, and I greatly appreciate everything. Again, for those interested, for Hudson Valley Heart Walk, which is happening April 27th, please check out DuchessUlsterHeartWalk.org. You can also find more information of Go Red for Women celebration by going to the American Heart Association's website. The specific link for the Go Red for Women celebration isn't up yet, but keep checking for more information on that. And of course, there is so many links, more information, studies, so much that we weren't able to talk about on this, but you can check out.
I could go on and on, yeah.
But there's plenty about the centennial, plenty about research, plenty about advocacy that you can check out on the website. We have those links. We have that information. We have descriptions all in the description and article of this episode. So there's plenty more for you to check out. Kathy, again, thank you so much for being on this episode. In our closing moments, do you have any last little nugget for our In Touch listening audience?
Absolutely. And I would like to end on an up note.
Yes, please.
A lot of heart disease and stroke is preventable. So I would encourage everyone today, eat something healthy, take a little walk. Just do those two things, and you will be on your way to better heart and brain health.
Fantastic. Just simply self-care. Take care of yourself. It makes such a difference.
Yep.
So no, Kathy, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all that. And of course, more information on the American Heart Association can be found in the description of this episode. Thanks so much for being here on In Touch, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Connor. Have a great day.
You too. This has been this week's edition of In Touch, the award-winning public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. We want to give a big thank you to Kathy McCarthy. For more information on the Hudson Valley Heart Walk and the American Heart Association as a whole, please visit heart.org. Of course, all links and information can be found in the description of this episode. Whether you've been listening for a while or you just joined us, thank you. You can find In Touch episodes new and old on your favorite streaming services like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. That and listen on demand with your Townsquare radio station mobile app. Of course, you can still find all articles and audio under the In Touch tab on this radio station's app and website. And don't forget, we're also on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at InTouch_HV. If you like what we do here on the show and want to be on, let us know. Whether you have a topic you want to discuss or you want to be a guest, you can fill out the In Touch submission form, which can be found in the description of this episode. I've been your host, Conor Walsh. Until next time, stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time